Your Creative Force by Avianne is currently available on Global Voice Radio.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. Broadcasting from the San Francisco Bay Area, the all-new all-hit show on creativity. Hosted by international award-winning artist and entrepreneur, Avianne. You're listening to Your Creative Force. And now here's your host, Avianne.
Hi there, this is Avianne coming to you once again from the beautiful city of San Francisco in the Bay Area, California, the USA. I am so excited to be with you guys today. We have quite the lineup for you. I have a wonderful topic to go deeper into with you today. But before we delve into all that, I want to make you aware of some ways that you could connect with me. The best way is probably to just directly email me at coachavianne@gmail.com. coachavianne@gmail.com, or you can go to one of my two current websites. The one is artbyavianne.com, artbyavianne.com, or takeartclasses.com. Those are the best ways to connect with me. You can also connect with me on social media. If you type in the name of my show, Your Creative Force, if you type in Art by Avianne or Avianne Academy of Arts on social media, you should very easily be able to find me. I am most present on Facebook and also to a degree on Instagram. We are working on expanding our online footprint at this time. So that all being said, let's jump into today's topic. Today we are having episode 9 of our radio show, Your Creative Force, and we are going to discuss the topic that I like to refer to as the magic of authenticity. I want to unpack with you one of the current buzzwords of the business and coaching world. This word is authenticity. It is a message we hear a lot these days. You have to be yourself. You have to be real. Be vulnerable and authentic. We all would like to be regarded as being authentic. Who wouldn't? But do we really know the scope of its meaning? Do we ever truly stop to ask ourselves how far we would be willing to go to show the world who we truly are? This is a paradox, something that seems that it should come naturally to us, instinctively, and yet it is a mystery and complex when we take a closer look. Authenticity has a magical quality if we learn to wield it with intention and if we can lay down perfectionism as we do so. Here's the thing. I think a lot of us think that being authentic means that we have to just put it all out there. We have to just show everyone everything about ourselves and tell everyone everything about who we really are. And when we are doing business, we can just say whatever we want and do whatever we want. I know a lot of artists and business people who kind of have this idea of authenticity. And I'm here to tell you that authenticity does not mean that you throw all caution to the wind. It doesn't mean that you have to show every aspect of who you are and what you do in your business to every single person. Not everyone can handle all kinds of information. Not everyone can handle you full force, probably. I can tell you that I know myself well enough to know that in person, one-on-one with people, I can come across very intense. I am a fast talker. I am a fast thinker. And if I just pour myself out on people without any self-control, without any restraint, without any wisdom or discernment, I can overwhelm people very easily. And I am aware of this. And I think it is important that I am aware of this, because if I'm not, what I can do is I can just shower people with so much all at once that I actually freak them out. And this is something that is sometimes hard for me because I love just giving myself to people and just being myself in front of people. And I want to do that. I want to show people, hey, I'm a great person. I'm honest. I'm easy to deal with. If we deal with each other based on facts, based on your needs, based on what I'm able to offer you, we can totally do business. And I'm very excited and I'm very passionate about what I have to offer my clients. But I have learned that sometimes I need to slow myself down. I need to break things down for people in digestible little bits, and I have to give to people where they are able to meet me, what they are able to receive from me. And that is something that takes time. Sometimes in the beginning of building a business, we are nervous. We are kind of eager to impress. We are eager to retain a client or to even just land a client, right? So that can sometimes make us come across a little nervous and a little overly eager. Most people will be forgiving about that, but you really have to know your client. You really have to know wisdom in dealing with people. So in your journey of learning how to be authentic, something you draw from your creative source and pull out of your creative force to live by and do business by, something that you want to encompass also in your striving to be integrous and be having healthy boundaries in your business. Remember, we talked about that in episode 4 when we were looking at boundaries with integrity. In your journey of wanting to accomplish all of the above, you want to also exercise some wisdom, discernment, and self-control. You have to learn who you can share what with in what situation. But you cannot overthink it either. That's the other side of the coin in this regard, right? You cannot overthink the fact that you have to really pay attention to how you come across to your client and what you say. You have to have some self-awareness in this regard, right? But you cannot overthink it, because the minute you start overthinking it, you're going to start doing really silly things. I'm going to pause here for a moment and I'm going to tell you guys, sometimes for me, this is a tough one. Because I am all out there. I don't feel like I have things to hide. I don't feel like I need to be someone else than who I truly am to sell my services or sell my work to anyone. And so for me, I'm kind of just out there being myself. So this does not come naturally to me. All this really talking in a business manner, really being super circumspect sometimes if I'm in certain situations, what I share with whom. These things are very difficult for me. They don't come natural to me because I'm someone who's just, what you see is what you get, right? And that's not a bad thing. That is actually the essence of being authentic. But the thing is, I need to understand that not everyone can handle me full force. Not everyone needs to know everything about what I do, how I do it, who I do it with, and I have to be very professional about all of that, right? So we are going to look at this double-edged sword that cuts two ways. Part 1 of our show today is about two sides of the coin, the pros and the cons of being authentic and how it can be kind of tricky to navigate it. On the one hand, it is something very freeing. It aligns us with our core values and our true selves so that we can operate holistically and from a place of stability, conviction, and intent. That is the value, that is the secret value, the magic of authenticity. Authenticity would help you to be aligned, to be integrous in your dealings. It will create stability for you in your actions. If you are the same, if you are reliable and people know what to expect of you and you don't come across to people as being unpredictable or unreliable, that is a massive asset to you in doing business. People want to do business with people like that. But here's the thing. As much as it provides us with integrity and a reputation for being truthful, honest, and real, and as much as we may even be admired for having such qualities, it can also be frightening to us. Here's how and why this piece of the puzzle fits into this equation. It can cause us to pause, wondering how much we should truly reveal, and questioning who we can truly trust. I do not think this is a unique dilemma, but I do think it is an unavoidable one, and I also think that most people hide their true selves in business because of this fear of going too far, a desire not to offend or not to stir trouble. I can tell you that I hold many personal views that I do not reveal in my business dealings. The reason why is I do not want to be divisive. I do not want to offend clients. I do not want people to just have a perception of me based upon their own understanding or their own reasoning or their own opinions about certain things. So I steer clear of certain topics when I'm dealing with people in business. One of those topics are politics. I do not discuss politics in business. I do not mix politics and business. I very seldom even mix friendship and business because I don't want to blur the lines between being personal with someone and being professional with someone. There is a difference. There is wisdom in knowing how and what and when and why not to bring up certain things and not to mix certain types of relationships. There truly is wisdom in that, and I really try to adhere to that. Now, Merriam-Webster defines authenticity to us as follows. A. Worthy of acceptance or belief as conforming to or based on fact. For instance, he paints an authentic picture of our society. B. Conforming to an original so as to reproduce essential features. An authentic reproduction of a colonial farmhouse, as an example, correct? Or C. Made or done the same way as an original. Authentic Mexican fare. D. Not false or imitation, real and actual. E. True to one's own personality, spirit or character. Someone who is sincere and authentic, with no pretensions. That sounds awesome, right? And here's something I also just want to say at this point in our show today. If you are someone who struggles to be authentic, you kind of have a super business persona and your business face, and then you have your private life persona and your private face that you show to people. If this is a troubling thing to you and you feel disconnected, you feel like these two people are almost two completely separate people, I want you to totally relax about that. It is not uncommon. And this does not necessarily mean that your business persona is being inauthentic. Okay? We are going to look at the wisdom of separating these things out. Can you see what I meant when I said in the beginning, this can become tricky, this can almost be a paradox? Okay, so bear with me. We are on this journey together. For me, because in my private life, I am so free, I am so open, I have to understand who my client is, and relating to them in business means that I sometimes have to hold that back a bit. That doesn't mean I have to lie about who I am. That doesn't mean I don't show the client who I truly am. That just means that I am very careful what I share with whom. And this trust thing is very important. I can promise you that you are not going to trust every client and every person in your life on the same level, right? So you have to know according to who you trust and also the amount of relationship, the depth of relationship that you have with someone in business, just like in your personal life. That will determine how much of your authentic self you actually share. Unfortunately, in today's world, people tend to jump to conclusions very fast. They tend to make up their minds about a person in business very fast. They tend to judge a book by its cover very, very fast. So how you come across is really important. But that doesn't mean that you have to completely hide your authentic self. That doesn't mean that you cannot, within being wise, within being discerning with regards to business and people, that does not mean that in your discernment, in your wisdom, you have to sacrifice your authenticity. So I'm going to give you some ways of being authentic while being wise and while being discerning. I hope that sounds really good to you. So If we look at how Merriam-Webster defines authenticity, right, using words like worthy of acceptance or belief as conforming to or based on facts, conforming to an original so as to reproduce essential features, made or done the same way as an original, not being false or being an imitation, being real and actual, being true to one's own personality, spirit, or character, being someone who is sincere and authentic with no pretensions. If we look at that definition and we analyze it a little bit deeper, one would therefore deduct that an authentic person would be a person who displays the characteristics of being truthful, accurate, factual, honorable, and of good moral intentions. Who would not want a friend or a client or a business partner like that? These are qualities I think that every normal human, if you are a normal person who wants to excel in your business, who wants to attract the correct clients, who wants to do business in a free and honest way, who doesn't like drama, who doesn't want to deal with character problems in your business all the time, if you have that kind of ethic and outlook, and those are your core values in business and touches on your core values in your personal capacity, if that's the kind of person you are, you're going to want to deal with other people who are like that, and you are going to want to bring those qualities to your business, right? And I think everyone in their right mind would want to do business in that way. But this is also where the matter becomes a bit more complex. So think about it. I'm going to use 3 kind of out there examples to illustrate my point. Firstly, what would it mean if you were always 100% truthful to people? Would you be mortified and embarrassed, offending others to no end, like Jim Carrey's character in the movie Liar, Liar? If you haven't seen that movie, you have to. It's very funny, by the way. What if you were so factually correct, pointing it out constantly, that you push everyone away from yourself, like the character of Sheldon Cooper in the sitcom The Big Bang Theory? And thirdly, even if you had the purest of moral intentions, how would you ever measure up to it? You are human, so how would you go about it without ever messing up, thereby not being authentic? Right? These are the ways that I kind of think on topics. I go really deep and I ask myself tough questions. So if I want to be authentic and I have this moral code, how would I even achieve that without ever saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing? So for me, as someone who does battle perfectionism from time to time in my business dealings, this creates a problem for me because this taps into my perfectionist tendencies, and then I start stressing out. Then I start feeling uncomfortable. I start shifting in my chair. I'm so careful and I start overthinking things to the point where I cannot almost function in front of a client. So this is the thing. I have good news for you. Perfectionism is not required. I think this is something I told you already in episode 2 or 3, if I recall correctly, is perfectionism. When you want to truly live your best life, when you want to live from your creative force, as a person who has boundaries with integrity, as a person who deploys the magic of authenticity in every aspect of who you are, and someone who has integrity, someone who is consistent, someone who is stable, someone who someone else wants to do business with. When you are drawing these beautiful qualities out of yourself, you are not required to always make them into a perfect display for everyone else. You are going to mess up. You have to understand that you're human and you have to be okay with it. Everybody is awkward sometimes. Everyone has their quirks. We all do. It is normal. It is human. It doesn't make you a failure. I one time said something so bad in front of a client. I'll just use this as an example, okay? I really cannot stand extremely ostentatious design or extremely what I would consider kitsch interiors, right? So one day I made a very big mistake in front of a client where we got into a discussion about different design aspects and design styles in the decorating, design, artistic industry. And I was telling them how I really do not appreciate kitsch. And I do not like it when people overclutter their homes or overclutter things. It's just a personal thing for me. Doesn't mean that people who do that are wrong. It's just something I don't enjoy, right? So I was mentioning this to the client. And when I had to go to their house to actually install the artwork they ordered from me, their house was very cluttered and what I would consider very kitsch. I felt absolutely mortified that I very authentically and innocently revealed to them that basically what is their personal treasure and what is their personal preference would be something I don't care for. You see how that works? It was really mortifying for me. But you know what? I realized something. Even though I said that to them, they still did business with me. So even if I made a mistake, even when I told them something I should probably not have said to this specific client, even though I messed up by what I said to them, they still continue to do business with me because I think this client knew that I was just being authentic. They knew that I was not going to lie to them and not going to make up stories and tell them tales to just get a sale. And I think in a very weird way, it was a redeeming quality. But after that, I am very careful. I can promise you, as authentic as I am and as much as I know exactly what I stand for and what I don't stand for when it comes to in art and design in general, I am so careful of giving a client any particular personal opinion about. So I guess it is safe to say then in this regard, being authentic does not mean that you have to be perfectly yourself, perfectly perfect all the time. I hope I'm making sense. I think I am, and I think this is very helpful to know. It takes the pressure off. Part of being authentic is being okay with not being perfect. If you are authentic, even in your imperfection, even in your quirks, people are endeared to that. It's an endearing quality because people know that you are sincere. It is not advisable to mess up all the time consistently, and if you catch yourself doing something that you consider a big mess, like when I told this client my opinion about their design and their own home, which I was unaware of at the time, right? When that happens, all you need to do is learn from it and move on. It's a learning process. It's a journey. And I think it's important for us to understand that and to have tremendous patience with ourselves and tremendous mercy on ourselves. Not all of us are naturally great at working with people either. Usually, if you are an entrepreneur, you are going to have to work with people. So you're going to have to develop some measure of skills working with people. But that doesn't mean you have to be totally perfect or that you have to be this charismatic giant in your industry that everyone loves you for your personality. That is not necessarily what that means either. So this concludes part 1 of our show, and in part 2 we are going to delve a bit deeper into this topic of the magic of authenticity.
The broadcast that sets you on a path of inspiration and fire. You're listening to Your Creative Force. And now we return to our show with Avianne.
We are back with part 2 of our show today. You're listening to Your Creative Force by Avianne, and our topic today is the magic of authenticity. In part 2, we are going to take a deeper look at how to truly become and remain authentic. Basically, what this involves is you have to be in line with your own conscience. You have to understand that. Perfection is not required. Remember, we touched on that in part 1. But you have to remain aligned with your own conscience. If you create duality for yourself in that area, you are going to constantly feel frustrated. You are going to start second-guessing everything you do in your business. You are probably going to run into some problems where people will not experience you as being authentic and will seriously question your behavior. It's easy to slip into unhealthy business habits this way, but your authenticity, your integrity, your boundaries with integrity, those are the kinds of things that will not only keep you operating authentically from your creative force, but those are the things that would protect you in front of clients, that would defend you in your absence, because people will be so aware and convinced of the character of the person that you are, that even in your absence, they will speak fairly, they will speak favorably of you. And I feel this is something that we don't always realize. These things seem maybe second nature, maybe they seem kind of things that are not important, but I'm telling you, these things are even part of what makes your business work and what makes your business not work. These are the things that feed into your company culture. These are the things that give you the kind of reputation that enables you to not only land a client, but retain a client. So these are things you really want to think about. These are things that I don't think people always get taught in business schools, right? They don't always get taught the value of these types of qualities when you actually are looking to do business in an integrous way. It is important that we understand that authenticity is both a matter of the heart and the mind. You have emotions, you have feelings, you have a story, you have experiences, but you also have the ability to reason. You have the ability to control your own behavior, right? So it's a matter of the heart and the mind. We cannot be authentic without willing ourselves to be so. But we also need the freedom to not overthink and overanalyze everything we are and everything we do to the point of analysis paralysis, or even achieving the very thing we don't wish to achieve, which is being inauthentic. If you overthink this topic of authenticity, okay, so let me stop right there. There's two dangers here. If you don't pay attention to how authentic you come across to your client, if you have absolutely no self-awareness and no ability to see yourself accurately in this regard, you're going to really mess up. You're going to make clients think that you really don't care about this whole thing about being authentic, okay? But on the other hand, if you start overthinking it to the point where you are so eager to impress a client or to land a client or to display your authenticity, you know what ends up happening? I've seen this a lot. You start telling tales to a client. You start embroidering upon the truth, right? You start elaborating on the truth. And in the end, you're telling the client stuff that you're like, wow, I can't believe I even said that, because it's not really something I can do for them. It's not really something I should be offering the client. And you start overstepping boundaries and you start violating your own boundaries, and it becomes a hot mess because you're so focused on not messing up that you mess up. Does that make sense? Like if you're playing sports and you like, don't drop the ball, don't drop the ball. But because you're actually saying to yourself the words, drop the ball all the time, you are going to probably increase your chances of dropping the ball. It's kind of like reverse psychology. Is this making sense, you guys? I think it is making sense. It makes sense to me that if I start over-focusing on my drawbacks or my flaws or something I think I should overcome or compensate for, or something that I think I should truly get across to the client, if I go too far, if I start over-explaining, then it kind of leads to fibbing. It kind of leads to me, in the end, achieving the exact opposite, which is actually being inauthentic. And that is the very thing we are trying not to be, right? So you can see how you just need to relax and you just need to go with the flow, take your cues from the client, and don't overshare. Don't say too much. Don't offer information that the client does not require. A lot of people value their time and they value information that you give to them. They're not interested in hearing your entire life story every time you speak to them. They are also not interested in hearing information that doesn't pertain to them. And what you don't want to do is you do not want to offer information that can then create a doubt in your client's mind. Like, for instance, if I'm giving a client an artwork, I don't go into the details and the depths of how I create the artwork too much. Just because a lot of what goes into creating my art It is often not something that a client would probably find interesting or relatable on any level. And if I go too much on a tangent about if I go on and on about what I do and how I do it, it can be really frustrating for a client having to stand there wasting their time listening to all of it. What I find interesting and intriguing may not be so for the client. So there's a lot of self-awareness involved in that. So what I do, instead of giving them all the details about how, like I say, the sausage gets made, right, which isn't always pretty or fun or interesting to them, I find a way to connect with them. If there's someone who travels, I try to mention things that indirectly or directly relate to the artwork that they may have come across in their travels, right? If they're a scientist or an engineer, I point out technical aspects of the work that I think they may find interesting, like how I mixed certain supplies or how I applied certain techniques to the artwork to make it achieve the desired results. Sometimes connecting with the client in their world really helps you to sell the product or to make the product special or personal to the client. If people personally relate to what you're doing or what you're selling to them, it so much more means something to them. It has more value to them. It's a way of getting the client personally excited about the work and do it in an authentic way. You have to understand that you always have to remain authentic, no matter what the context, no matter what it is that you are actually trying to say or sell to your clients. So that brings us to an interesting thing, which is how can we become and remain authentic in business? Well, first you have to know what your core values are. If you don't even know what you stand for, if you don't even know what your core values are, if you are not someone who is very integrous and very secure in yourself, then you are not going to be able to project that level of authenticity outward towards your client. The other thing is, you have to know where you draw the line with people in any situation. People don't mean to do this, but this is something a client will naturally do with you, no matter what kind of service or product you offer. Clients sometimes want extra special treatment. Let's just call it that. They want you to drive out to the job site more than you normally would for another client in a similar situation. They would want you to make exceptions to the rules. They would want you to rework things or to spend more time doing more little nitty-gritty jobs for them that aren't really included in your first job. And so what you would need to do is you would need to really know where you draw the line with people in any situation. And you have to be upfront and straightforward with people about that. When I go to someone's house and they show me something and they're like, can you create something to do this or to do that? And I don't feel like it's really my thing. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm kind of not the artist that wants to paint a mermaid on your kid's wall anymore. I did that when I was young. It's not the kind of art I do anymore. What I do then is I say to them, you know what? It's not really the kind of work I do, but I can refer you to someone who may be interested in painting a mural on your kid's wall of a mermaid. Not something I would do. You're not going to want to pay my fees to have a mermaid on your kid's wall, but I can refer you to someone. So there's a way to easily let the client know, and being authentic, where you draw the line with people about what you offer and what you don't offer, what kind of thing you're willing to do, and what kind of thing you're willing not to do. Because my work is kind of pricey to many people, they often ask me if they can have a discount, and I simply explain to them, unless I am running a specific promotion on my work, a seasonal promotion or something else in that regard, I do not offer discounts because it is unfair to my clients who do pay my full price for my work. And usually people do understand it and they do respect it. When you sell something or offer a service, you have to also be very clear about what you are offering your client. Don't oversell and underdeliver. Never promise a client things that you cannot deliver. Instead, undersell and overdeliver. If you mess up in this area, let's say I promise a client, I'm going to drive out 2 hours to your location to install this artwork for you. And it was just a spur of the moment thing that I said. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't really have said that because I don't really want to drive out to this client's house for 2 hours to install this artwork. But you know what? I will do it anyway because I want the client to know that I'm not just telling tales or trying to sell them something by making promises I won't keep. So I always try as far as it's humanly possible to keep my promises, even if I overpromise to a client. But generally, you want to undersell and overdeliver, not oversell and underdeliver. I'm sure that makes sense to you guys. You have to also become very discerning and wise about people. Learn to read people. Usually you can tell quite a bit about a person when you just look at their body language, okay? Now, before I go on, I want to just mention this at this point, as per this point. For business purposes, authenticity is very important. I don't like it when I feel that someone is telling me tales to make a sale or pretending to be a millionaire by taking pictures with their friend's dad's Porsche, right? You see that a lot on social media, and I'm like, oh, it's not really authentic to me because I can tell you're totally staging this. I don't know where that money you're throwing on the bed and taking a picture of is really coming from. I don't know if that car you're posing with is really yours, and why would you try and do that to sell me? Are you trying to sell me the lifestyle? What are you really up to? I kind of don't trust that thing. And you know what? I don't ever wish to end up being that person who does that to someone else. Or, I don't know that I like to do business with people who give it to me, who don't give it to me straight. I don't know that I want to do that. If I see you being a certain way on social media, but then I meet you in person, you're completely someone else, I kind of worry about that. I don't think that you are who you say you are. But I do know that I like to do business with people who do give it to me straight, even if they tell me what I don't want to hear, who speak to me like I'm a person, who shows genuine interest in solving a problem for me or helping me on my journey. I have this thing about people who smile too much and act unnaturally. It's interesting. On this topic of become discerning and wise about people, there's something I can tell you right off the bat. I'll just use this as a little example. I know when someone is not truly authentic when they start smiling in a weird way. Have you ever noticed it? Someone who just smiles all the time, even when they shouldn't smile. It's the weirdest thing. It's like they're acting in a toothpaste commercial. And it's weird and it's stiff and it's unnatural. And when I see that, to me, that is a huge red light. And you know what? I have found it time and time and again that is a very simple, very straightforward, but a very accurate way to know if this person is just trying to make a quick sale. If I'm seeing unnatural behavior, unnatural body language, unnatural smiling, fooling around, joking around all the time without being sincere, weird things like that, really, I find that off-putting, and usually those are clear signs that this person isn't being very authentic with me. So, moving on from that, you also have to be 100% willing to walk away from any client if they violate their contract with you or mistreat you. See, there's something we do, especially if we are a small business or a startup. We eat a lot of nonsense from people. I call it eating nonsense. You may have your own way of referring to it. To me, it is that you allow people to violate your boundaries. You allow them to use and abuse you because you actually are desperate for the money or the business. You need to, as quickly as you can, reach a point where you ditch clients like that because they will always bring their toxic ways into your business and they're not going to change. And if from the get-go they learn that they can get away with treating you like that, that is how they are always going to treat you, no matter how successful you become. So you have to be willing 100% to walk away from a client like that. And remember that often, if they go too far, there are laws and things you can do that you are protected against clients who want to just rip you off and take advantage of you. You do not have to just sit there and take it. Then actively seek out the clients you want instead of just waiting for clients to find you. You have to go find the clients you want. There are many ways to do that. You can approach someone in marketing to help you find more effective ways to do that if you're struggling in that regard. Only engage in projects and work that you truly believe in and are willing to stand by. This is very important. I don't make work that I don't feel comfortable making. Whatever the work may be, if I feel like I have to sacrifice my excellence or my integrity to create a certain artwork for a person, if I feel like they're expecting me to create something for them that sends a message I don't want to send in my business, then you know what? I am going to think twice before I'm doing business with that person. Then, seek to display diplomatically, if you must, integrity and excellence in all you do. It kind of goes with the previous point. I cannot fully, passionately sell something I'm not confident about. There's a lot of art that's in my studio that I'm probably not going to ever sell, or that I have to rework significantly if I ever want to sell it. I just don't have the confidence to sell it because I know it's not my best work. I know it's work that isn't successful in a certain degree, not meeting my standards of excellence, and I am not going to ever be able to convince someone else to purchase that work if I am not even convinced of it myself. So diplomatically, if someone sees that in my studio, I have to tell them it's still a work in progress. Or, if someone expects me to violate something, to violate a core value, to violate my integrity, I just very diplomatically, if it's someone I respect and someone I want to do business with, I just very diplomatically have to tell them that's kind of not how I operate. So remember that. And also, stand up for yourself and stand by the people who are loyal to you as far as it depends on you. If you have good, loyal people working with you in business, doing deals with you, and if you are someone who has acted with integrity and excellence toward client, learn to stand up for those people and learn to stand up for yourself whenever necessary. There are good, healthy, diplomatic ways of doing so, right? Authentic people can be vulnerable about it when they make a mistake or forget things. Remember that. Your clients will know if you lie, and they will likely respect you more if you can state the truth, even if you need to muster all the diplomacy you can find. We will go deeper into the topic of vulnerability in a future episode, but here's what I want you to understand about that. If you mess up, people will be forgiving with you if they know that you're not lying to them. Don't try and cover up a mistake by making up a lie. People can usually tell, and that's very off-putting. And I can tell you now, if I ever find out that someone does that with me, I run in the opposite direction. I do not want to do business with people who are going to try and cover up their messes or their inability to deliver for me by lying to me. Okay? Authenticity does not mean the following. It doesn't mean you have to cast everything you are and everything you do in stone. Leave some room for change and growth. Don't be so dead set on being yourself that you leave no room for improvement. We all grow. We all improve. It is a natural thing. It is part of everyday life for all of us. In business, it's the same way. The more you learn to be your authentic self, the more you live from your creative force, the more of your treasures you dig up and discover and deploy in your business practices, you're going to change. Your level of authenticity is going to expand. So you want to leave room for that change. You don't want to be so set in your ways that you cast it in stone and you become so rigid that people don't find you authentic anymore. You see how that sneaks in? Now, this doesn't mean you must always know exactly what to do or say in every situation. You need to trust your intuition and, when possible, buy yourself some time to think something over. You are not perfect, so don't put that on yourself. You do not have to have immediate perfect solutions and answers to your client every single moment of every single day. You can actually allow your client to wait a day or two before you give them an answer, just so you make sure that when you're giving them an answer, when you're giving them a response, a solution, you're giving it to them straight, you're giving it to them from an authentic place, and you're not telling tales, right? Just to please them in the moment. So if you can, whenever you can, this is a good rule of thumb in general, step back, tell the client, I'm going to think it over for a day or two, and I will get back to you. If you need time to do more research, then you tell the client, I need to get more information. I need to figure out how I'm going to deliver this to you, if it's even something I am capable of doing. So please give me a few days, a week or so to just get back to you on that. And most people will appreciate your honesty, your authenticity in this regard. Authenticity also doesn't mean that you have to be all things to all people, and you need to remember that. You have the right to always set boundaries, always. You do not have to become everyone's go-to guy just because you have good character. People can suck you dry if you're not careful, so be wise about who you allow into your personal space. There is so much wisdom in this one statement alone. I cannot stress that enough. You still have to always exercise boundaries within your authentic journey. This concludes part 2 of our show today, and we are going to move on to part 3 shortly, during which we are going to discuss the magic of authenticity, how people will react to someone in business who is truly authentic.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. And now we return to our show with your host, Avianne.
In part 3 of our show on authenticity today, episode 9, The Magic of Authenticity, we are going to look at how people respond to authenticity. Most people respond very favorably to those they perceive as being authentic in business, and very negatively when they feel violated by someone who deceives them. The opposite of authenticity in business to me is intentional deception. And I want to pause here and give you an example of something that happened to me some time ago. Some years back, I did a lot of work in the interior design industry. I did a lot of mural work. It was part of building up my fine art business, but I just found it easier to enter the decorative industry at that time because I had more expertise in doing business in that industry. And so it was part of my fine art business. An extended version of that was working in the interior design and decorating industry. So I did murals. So something that happened during this time, this was a few years back, is I got approached by a publicist who wanted to get me to work in the interior design industry, and she made all kinds of promises to me. She worked for a magazine. They made me promises about promoting my work, about placing commercials and ads of my work, about all kinds of different things that these people promised me, and they made a contract with me, and this was very targeted marketing. It would have totally targeted my exact audience, my exact target clients, which are high-end clients. And to make a long story short, in the end, she was a total fraud. She made all kinds of promises to me that she didn't uphold, that was totally not the truth. One of the things that they said they were going to do, and that she hammered on a lot and that she focused on a lot when she was talking to me, was the fact that she was going to arrange all these get-togethers and all these meet and greets between me and my potential clients in group settings. And the way she described it and the way she explained it and the way it was worded in the contracts that they had with me, it was all very above board. I couldn't tell up front that anything was fishy about it. But what ended up happening was she totally did not keep her promises. She kept postponing a lot of these events. She kept canceling a lot of these events, just saying that there was no interest. But the way she did it, the way she went about it, was she was really lying to me. I could really tell that she was lying. She was avoiding me. She was totally not upholding her end of the deal. And the company she worked for was in clear violation of the contract. So I was looking at this. I'm like, okay, well, I can approach this a few different ways. And the only way I could eventually deal with this situation, because it was back and forth and she was just defending herself and dragging out the process, I just decided, you know what? I have so much evidence that these people completely violated all their contract requirements with me. I'm just not going to pay anymore, because it was supposed to be something I was paying for monthly. So I stopped all my payments. And then suddenly I got a response from them. Okay, why are you not paying? And then I wrote to her superiors this letter in which I stated very specifically every aspect of the contract that was violated. And you know what happened? They let me off the hook with the payments, and they left me alone after that, because I think it was very clear to them, just as clear as it was to me, that this woman took me for a ride and that she was signing up clients under false pretenses and making promises. And I don't know if the story was with the company making false claims and promises and contracts, or if it was her just being untruthful in her marketing. It was hard to tell the two apart. And it was so convoluted and so difficult to actually resolve the situation that the only way I ended up being able to resolve it was to just stop my payments, to get the attention of the company, and then being able to talk to her superiors and actually tell them what was going on. And in their defense, they did let me off the hook, and they didn't pursue any bad intentions with me after that. They didn't legally go after me, and they left me alone. I said to them, I want you to leave me alone. I want you to never contact me again. I will never do business with you again. And if you do not leave me alone, I will make your lives very difficult, because I was very connected in their industry and I could have made their lives very difficult. And I think she got afraid. I think she was worried about losing her job, because what I told them and the evidence I provided clearly showed violations on her behalf. And that was just a horrible experience for me, where someone was totally lying through their teeth, telling tales to sell me things. But you know what? I learned my lesson through that. I am never going to be that easily deceived by someone ever again. In that regard, my eyes are wide open, and I have now learned to watch for the signs of authenticity, and I will be much more careful next time, and I'm not going to allow someone to do that to me again. But this lady, yes, this was a very scary and frightening experience for me, because my business was young and I was really upset. It was not very pleasant. But I'm glad I learned this lesson early on. That's something I can tell you guys as well. Whichever lessons you need to learn, the sooner you learn them, the better. Because the more further you are into your business, the more further along your journey you are, then more people become at stake. More money is at stake. More deals, more of your reputation is at stake the further along you go. So I'm glad I learned these lessons early on. And like I say, it was a very convoluted situation, and I'm very glad that I could navigate myself out of it. And it took some drastic steps, and I want to avoid that. And I want you guys to avoid that. So that's why I'm telling you, learn to read people and learn to look for authenticity. People tend to trust those they perceive as being for real. When you make an unforeseen mistake or experience a crisis that, for instance, causes the need for a deadline extension, people will be more forgiving with you, have mercy on you in a time of need, and will be more willing to give you the benefit of the doubt or the chance to fix things. I recently experienced a private matter in my life, a crisis in my family, and as a result I had to postpone a deadline with a client, and I had to postpone the deadline for an entire month so that I could sort out this crisis in my family. But I was upfront and honest with the client, and up to that point they have gotten to know me as someone who delivers on my promises, and so they had mercy on me. So that's what I'm telling you about this, is that people will trust you when they perceive you as being for real. And when you make a mistake, or when a crisis hits and you have to postpone a deadline or something goes wrong, they will then have more grace on you to fix the situation or to extend the deadline. Then people talk, and you will gain a reputation for being a tried and true authority in your field if they know you will be the person who will provide them with an honest answer and a truly excellent service or product. See, if people ask me for advice on buying art, even if the art they want to buy has nothing to do with me or isn't an artwork that I created, they know they can come to me because they know I'm going to tell them, oh, this is a really great artwork, this artist has a good reputation, this is manufactured in a very excellent way, it's archival, it's very durable, it's a well done artwork. But I will also tell them if I think that they're being taken for a ride or that they're overpaying for something who is of inferior quality. So I have a lot of people who trust my reputation, and that is something I've built over time. Remember that authenticity is about integrity. Authenticity and integrity, they are best friends and they go together like a horse and carriage. So letting your yes be your yes and your no be your no, that is what people feel comfortable doing business with. They will absolutely want to deal with you in business if they truly know where they stand with you. Please listen to episode 4 about boundaries with integrity to delve a bit deeper into this aspect of authenticity. This is very important. You have to understand that people will do business with you if they understand where your boundaries are. But if they don't know where they stand with you, they're just going to go off by the cuff of their sleeve and they're just going to wing it as they go with you. And in the end, what this would lead to is you will be unhappy, they will be unhappy, and nobody's getting what they want. So I really encourage you to go listen to episode 4 of Your Creative Force, of this whole series that I'm creating for you about business and business practices, so that you could really get a sense of boundaries with integrity and how that plays into the whole concept of authenticity. So now we get to the final part of our show, which is our quote of the day. This is the true secret. This is the true conclusion, the true secret, the true treasure that I want to leave you with today. The absolute liberating freedom of being deeply authentic. When who you are and what you do are calibrated to your authentic self, and everything comes from within as honestly as you can bring it forward, you will not have to worry too much about looking over your shoulder. You will learn the treasure of living abundantly and unashamed from your creative force, and you will not feel the need to apologize for who you are and what you do as a business person. And then this quote is from Mark Twain. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. And with that, this is Avianne signing off from San Francisco in California. I hope to talk to you soon again on Your Creative Force by Avianne.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. Tune in next time as we explore